Imagine you are a peasant girl, 13 years old. You are standing alone in your father's garden in a small village when you hear a voice. Not a voice inside your head. A voice clear outside of you, calling your name. You look around. There is no one there, and the voice tells you that God has chosen you to save a kingdom. You cannot read. You cannot write. You have never held a sword, and you believe it. Tonight's story is about that girl and how she changed the history of a nation before she turned 20. You're listening to The Pilgrim's Lantern, true stories from the history of the Catholic faith, told slowly for the hours before sleep. So make yourself comfortable, turn out the light, and let's go back to the fields of France in the year 1425. Her name was Jeanne, in English, Joan. She was born in Domremy, a tiny village in eastern France around 1412. France in those years was barely a country at all. It had been at war with England for almost 100 years. The English held the north. The French king had never even been crowned. The land was exhausted, divided, and losing. Joan was a farmer's daughter. She tended sheep. She sewed. She prayed. More than the other children, they said. And from the age of 13, she heard them. The voices. She said they were saints. Michael the archangel, Catherine, Margaret. They came with light. And they told her again and again the same impossible thing. Go to the king, drive out the English, see him crowned. For years, she told no one. Then at 17, she left home to obey, a teenage peasant girl asking to see the future king of France. It should have been laughed out of the room. She walked into the fortress town where the uncrowned king was hiding. The story goes that he disguised himself, hid among his own courtiers, to test her. She walked past all of them and went straight to him. She told him something in private that witnesses said no one else could have known. Whatever it was, it changed his mind. He gave her armor. He gave her a banner, white, painted with the name of God. And against the advice of every general he had, he gave a teenage farm girl an army. She had asked for one more thing. A sword, she said, was buried behind the altar of a church she had never visited. They dug where she told them. The sword was there. The city of Orléans had been under English siege for months. It was starving, and it was the key to all of France. If it fell, the war was over. Joan rode in with the relief force. She did not hide behind the lines. She rode at the very front in white armor, holding her banner high where every soldier and every enemy could see her. An arrow went through her shoulder. She pulled it out and went back to the fighting. In 9 days, she did what the French armies had failed to do in 7 months. The siege of Orléans was broken, and then, town by town, she did the rest of the impossible thing the voices had promised. She carved a path through enemy land all the way to the city of Reims. And there, with Joan standing beside him, holding her banner, the Dauphin was crowned King of France. She was 19 years old. She had been at war for less than a year, but the voices had told her something else. They had told her that our time would be short. In the spring of 1430, in a skirmish outside a town called Compiègne, she was pulled down from her horse and captured. The English had been waiting a long time for this. They did not treat her as a prisoner of war. They put her on trial for heresy, for witchcraft, for wearing a soldier's clothing. The real crime, everyone knew, was that a teenage girl had humiliated the most powerful army in Europe. and had said God stood on the other side. The trial dragged on for months. She had no lawyer. She could not read a single charge written against her, and yet the transcripts survive. And in them, a frightened, exhausted teenager runs circles around a room full of trained theologians. They set her a trap. Do you believe you are in God's grace? If she said yes, it was the sin of pride. If she said no, she condemned herself with her own mouth. She answered, "If I am not, may God put me there, and if I am, may God keep me there." The room went silent. They condemned her anyway. On the 30th of May, 1431, in the marketplace of Rouen, they tied her to a tall wooden stake. She was 19 years old. She asked for a cross, and an English soldier, one of the men sent there to kill her, broke 2 sticks, tied them together and handed it to her. She asked someone to hold a crucifix up high where she could see it until the very end. Witnesses said she did not curse them. She did not scream for mercy. She called out one name over and over as the flames climbed. Jesus. A soldier who watched her die said afterward, "We have burned a saint." That should have been the end of her. It was not. 25 years later, the church reopened her case. They tracked down everyone still living who had known her, and they declared the trial a fraud. Every single charge overturned. Almost 500 years after that, in 1920, the church declared her a saint. Joan of Arc, the patron saint of France. The illiterate farm girl who could not read one word of the book they tried her with is now one of the most famous women who has ever lived. Here is the part that stays with me. She was not a general. She was not a scholar. She was not strong. She was a teenager who heard something, believed it, and refused to take it back, even when taking it back would have saved her life. And maybe that is the question this story leaves on your pillow tonight. Not, could I ever lead an army? But, is there something I know to be true deep down that I have been too afraid to say out loud? If tonight's story meant something to you, I hope you'll come back. Subscribe to the Pilgrim's Lantern. A new story arrives every week, told slowly, for the hours before sleep. And if you leave a comment below, tell me one thing you believe that you've been afraid to say. I read everyone. Good night.